Let's sort of take inventory of some of these big what-ifs that we need to address. Now, Jesse Simonton has an article on on3.com right now. Go check it out. He addresses some of the most pressing questions in the SEC. For each SEC team, he's got a question. He went on a Paul Feinbaum show today and talked about that, so go check out that article. This is tangentially related, if we can use that word here, when it comes to this segment. This is volume 1, so this is not all-encompassing, but just some of the more visible locations we got to take a look at here when it comes to some spring football what-ifs. What better place to start than in Ann Arbor, Michigan? And my big question, my big what-if for Michigan, what if their quarterback for 2024 isn't currently on their roster? You got Jack Tuttle, you got Alex Orji, Jack Tuttle getting another year of eligibility, shout out Jack Tuttle. But Michigan is in this interesting spot where, yes, it's the first year of the Sharon Moore era. J.J. McCarthy's gone to the league. His NFL draft stock is just absolutely crescendoing right now. They have, I think, too many pieces on this team, both offensively and defensively, to just settle and just say, okay, we'll roll with one of these guys. Good enough is good enough. No. Not just because it's that Block M. Not just because it's Michigan, it's not good enough. Because you have Colston Loveland, Mason Graham. Because you have Will Johnson, Kenneth Grant, Donovan Edwards. There's too many pieces here to just say, okay, let's see what happens. The other part of that, though, that's kind of interesting, I don't think there's enough pieces offensively to hide whoever you have playing quarterback. Like, I love Donovan Edwards. I expect him to have a massive load this year. I don't think you're just asking him to carry your football team. Same thing with Colston Loveland. He's like a preseason All-American kind of player. I don't think he's the guy that you just say, Colston Loveland, go win us football games. You got to have the right guy playing quarterback. So if they don't have the answer in the spring, what happens? It's a very, very big what if. Now, if you do have your guy in the spring and you feel good going forward, the continuity you get from those 15 practices into fall camp, knowing who one of your guys is, if not naming your starter in the spring, that's a massive, massive head start for your team, massive head start for what you want to do schematically. So keep an eye on that now. Michigan, 128th in returning production from last season. Still some key pieces. Too many pieces to just mail it in. Alabama. They started spring practice. Kalen DeBoer was asked about the quarterback position, and he didn't name a starter. He did say Jalen Milroe took the first reps with the ones. He pretty much said what any good head coach would say, taking over a new job, and says we want competition. We want these guys to battle for it. All that's true. Here's my big what if. What if Kalen DeBoer and his scheme is more important than the player at quarterback? Because you hear this a lot. Hey, it's scheme is secondary to player. We're going to tailor our scheme to our players. I don't think that Kalen DeBoer is lying when he says that. But Kalen DeBoer and what he did at Washington last year with Michael Penix Jr. was very, very different than the system that Jalen Milroe thrived in. Now, hand up, I think Jalen Milroe is the best quarterback on your roster in Tuscaloosa. That's not the question, though. The question is he the best quarterback for Kalen DeBoer's offense? Is he the best passer on this roster? That's a whole other question that I don't know that we have a definitive answer to. Because you look at this roster, man, you got Austin Mack, who is a Kalen DeBoer guy who transferred over from Washington with Kalen DeBoer, and you got Ty Simpson, who's a 5-star cat in his own right. So there's some guys now that can push this room if it is going to be a more Kalen DeBoer pass-heavy scheme in that sense. Now, if you want to go back to the way you did things last year with Jalen Milroe and have some design quarterback runs, awesome. But I wouldn't be 100% sure that it's going to just be a match made in heaven between Kalen DeBoer's offense and Jalen Milroe. Very, very big what if in Tuscaloosa we're going to have to take a look at right now. Let's go out to South Beach. We had Mario Cristobal on the show last week, and he was phenomenal. My big what if Miami has a true stretch-the-field kind of playmaker emerge for them during the spring. Now, this could be Josiah Trader, early enrollee wide receiver who's local down there. It could be Jacoby George, who's getting some love right now on social media because he's catching a pass from Cam Ward in the practice facility. That's all great. I'm here for it. I'm all about it. Let's drink all the Kool-Aid we can for any team that you root for. But you look at Miami, like they have some pieces now offensively. They got some pieces. The most crucial piece, obviously, is Cam Ward. Right? Like, that's pretty straightforward. You landed Cam Ward through the portal. You feel a lot more optimistic about what your offense can be in 2024. And then Shannon Dawson. I think what we saw from his offense early last year, think that Texas A&M game when they were humming, I think that's a lot more in line with what they want to be offensively. And so you can have a great OC that wants to push the ball deep. You can have a quarterback that wants to push the ball deep. But if you don't have that key ingredient of someone to be on the receiving end of that throwing the football deep, well, then it's all just sort of a good idea. It's all just something that looks nice on a play sheet that you drop on the whiteboard. If you have someone emerge, though, during the spring, then you can start to build on it. Then you can start to tailor your game plan for those first couple weeks of the season around a specific player. Now, the way that we'll have a good gauge for this, because it's spring, we say this a lot, spring is for taking a temperature. It's not for absolutes. You're not making a diagnosis. You're just kind of see what it feels like during the spring. The way that you would get a gauge for this, in my mind, is two things. One, intel. Intel. We'll talk about it on this show, so make sure you subscribe. But also, Kane Sport, okay? Best in the game covering Miami. The On3 Miami site. Get a membership over there. Gary Freeman and the team going to keep you in the know. So message boards, intel, practice reports, that'll be a good gauge. Then also just look for those things that coaches are saying in their post-practice press conferences. Or look at what players are saying. You're going to get a definitive buzz across the board of, hey, Josiah Trader's got to play. Hey, Jacoby George, he's taking a big step forward. We got to get him the football. Things like that. So keep an eye on that. Another big what if we got to get to here. What if Jackson Dart and Ole Miss, that offense, what if Jackson Dart takes another step? Because his first season, Jackson Dart came from USC to Ole Miss. There's a lot of encouragement, a lot of excitement about what he could do throwing the football downfield. He had looked good sparingly at USC, but this was a very different offense he had never played in before. The whole RPO scheme, that was different than anything he'd ever done at USC or at the high school level. So essentially, Jackson Dart is trying to learn a new language offensively. Year 1 to year 2 takes a massive leap forward. He goes from throwing 20 touchdowns and 11 picks to 23 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Also did really well with his legs on the ground, like he was a threat for you that way, and the team responded accordingly. They went 8-5 to 11-2. So that's year 1 to year 2. Jackson Dart says, run it back, baby. Let's do another season here in Oxford. What if he goes from 23 touchdowns to 33 touchdowns? What if he cuts down on those interceptions even more? Because look at the weapons for Ole Miss. Juice Wells, getting him via the portal. Trey Harris, absolute dog. He's coming back. The defense is going to be better because of what they did in the portal. If Jackson Dart takes another step forward, Ole Miss is going to be two things. One, an SEC title contender in a very real way, not just throw them up there, they're going to be in the hunt. No. They will be a real force to be reckoned with, and they'll be in the college football playoff. Both those things will be true if Jackson Dart takes another step forward. Full transparency, I'd buy stock now. I think he's going to take another step forward. Oklahoma, man, we got to talk about them now. Big what if. And this is a bullet point in Jesse Simonton's article when he was unpacking question marks throughout the SEC. So go check that out. Jesse Simonton, one of the best in the game. Happy to have him in On3. What if Oklahoma's offensive line kind of takes a minute? Because I don't have a ton of questions around what they do when it comes to Bill Bedenbaugh and how he's coaching that offensive line unit. I think they're going to be okay long term. The fact remains, though, man, you got 5 new starters. It's a brand spanking new offensive line. And oh, by the way, you got a brand spanking new quarterback behind you, too, in Jackson Arnold. Now, Jackson Arnold, I think he's going to be really good long term in Norman. He was billed what he was as a high school recruit for a reason. 5-star cat. I think you saw the ability more than the ready-made product that he was in that bowl game, because you had a lot of turnovers in the bowl game. I understand that, but I can't get over the rolling left, throwing right, the 60-yard bomb that he was throwing. The guy's got some juice now. But whatever you think about Jackson Arnold, doesn't matter if you can't keep him upright. And if you can't keep him upright, you don't have a prayer in the SEC. Just ask South Carolina. Spencer Rattler, I think, got a real raw deal for how he was perceived across college football during his time at South Carolina. I think he's going to end up being a decently high NFL draft pick, maybe a top 3-round guy because of what he has from an ability standpoint. I mean, Xavier Legette was a stud for them last season as well, went over 1,200 yards receiving. But the thing was, South Carolina, they struggled. They didn't make a bowl game. And their offense only scored 24 points a game. That should not be the case when you have Spencer Rattler playing quarterback and Xavier Legette playing receiver for you. Just shouldn't. But we went and saw them in person in Knoxville, Tennessee, and the clear governor was the offensive line. If you give Jackson Arnold an offensive line, if you can hold your water up front and put it together quickly to help him build confidence, Oklahoma is going to score some points and be able to hold serve in the SEC. If not, it's going to be an all bets are off kind of situation when it comes to what's going on out there in Norman. So a lot of big spring what-ifs. Hey, hit me with your what-ifs via Twitter, @JudyPickell. Instagram, Twitter as well. Get at me on there. Let me know what your big what ifs are for this spring season of college football. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.